This is James Rodriguez with JT Eaton, and you are listening to the world's #1 free pest control training podcast.
Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek podcast, bringing you the latest information on pests, products, and politics from today's leading industry sources to help you start, manage, and grow your pest control business.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to another edition of the Pest Geek podcast. I am Frank Hernandez, your Pest Geek, here discussing all things pest. We want to remind our audience to join in on the revolution. That's right, join in on the conversation, be part of the society. Pest Geek Podcast Listeners Group on Facebook. And we're on YouTube. We're on the web, pestgeekpodcast.com. Check out there the notes, everything that we put into the podcast. They're all on there. And here is Adam Malanga with today's topic.
Hey, this is Adam Malanga, bringing you part 4 of a 6-part series in successful selling skills. So part 1 is about easy prospecting. I call it easy because I found that it really is pretty easy, right? I know that a lot of salespeople over the years that I've worked with have struggled, man, in this part, get in front of a prospect, and it's just really not all that hard, right? It's all between the ears. This part 2 is about rapport building and really kind of putting yourself in a position of building trust with the customer, finding some places where you guys agree on stuff, and just putting yourself in a place where you can move forward in the process and the customer feels pretty comfortable with that. Part 3 was about opening and kind of questioning, and this is where you get into the fact-finding piece of this successful sales skill training. And it's where you're identifying the needs and the wants of the customer, right? Pretty important part. And that particular part kind of sets us up and it reveals the needs so that this part of the process, we can share our solution, right? So today we're into the problem solving mode, solution offering mode, for the customer prospect. Okay. The goal here today is to help this person, this prospect, this customer understand, what specifically your company, the services that you provide, can do to satisfy the needs, that we revealed in part 3, right? And so this is a really, really important part, because you're perceived, as a problem solver. And so now it's your opportunity to show them what exactly you can do to help them. Okay. It's also a really, really good opportunity, for you to do some branding here, right? If this is a prospect you hadn't talked to and perhaps they're getting a couple of bids from other companies, then it gives you a chance to kind of separate yourself from the rest of the crowd, right? And tell them why, you're the best pest control provider in the planet, And so, it's a great place for you, to do that here. How we do it, by the way, is it's just twofold. Really, we share features and we share benefits. I'm going to touch on that a little bit right now, but we'll go into depth here in a minute. So this right here in 25 years of sales leadership, is where I've seen so many salespeople just struggle, right? Because they never get to the benefits piece. They're stuck in feature mode, right? And so what happens is the prospect goes into this, so what syndrome, right? They get into this place where it's like, yeah, okay, well, first of all, I don't even know what you're talking about. And second of all, it's like, yeah, so what, right? Okay, whatever. And so that's the worst place for your prospect to be, because then there's no real buy-in to the solution, right? And so, but I've seen it so many times, just feature, and then never really any kind of benefits. You've seen some advertisement where, they feature, Apple does this great, right? There's some features, but man, they talk so much about how the real benefit, is really what they're buying is the benefit. And that's where you want to be. You want to be in that same place. Don't cause so what syndrome, right? Okay, so that's kind of how. Let's talk a little bit about when, and because this is super important, because there's a time to share this, right? You've gathered some information, right? And so the customer has told you what they needed. They've shared some buying language with you, right? That you've listened to because you're a really good salesperson, and they've told you exactly what it takes for you to sell them, for them to buy, right? And so you've got that information. So that's the first thing. The second thing needs to happen is that you both clearly understand what that problem is, right? And that the prospect really takes ownership of it. Because if they don't ever take ownership of the problem, then it doesn't really matter what your solution is, right? So you worked on this problem piece in part 3, and they've gotten ownership. So now if you're there, that's great. And then the last thing that needs to happen before you can move on is that you need to know if you provide a service that actually fixes this problem, right? And so, you may come across a customer that has, 5 different problems, and 3 of them you can solve, but 2 of them you can't, right? And so, and that's okay, as long as you articulate that to the customer. So, and while I'm on that, I think it's important to note that, there's been so many times when, I go to a prospect's house and they literally have like 5 problems that need to get fixed, right? Most of them are interrelated. But if this problem doesn't get fixed, then there is no real solution, right? It's just a Band-Aid and not solving the problem. And so I think it's important that as you identify these issues in your fact-finding, question-answering part, then you address every single one of those at this point, right? And do it separately. Don't necessarily do it as a bundled package, right? I do believe that you share it all. That's actually called top-down selling. And so you share it all, and then kind of prioritize what needs to get done, or, eliminate some of those things, like I said, that maybe it's a service you don't provide. Okay. So the when to do it is when you understand, that the customer's basically said, hey, I need this. You understand, and they take ownership, and, that you have a solution. Okay. So the how-to then, comes basically into, 3 things. The first is acknowledging that they have a problem or a need, right? And you want to make them feel comfortable, right? You want to make them feel like you understand that there's this problem, okay? You want to be empathetic here and share some of that with them. So it sounds something like this. Mrs. Jones, I get it. Or that completely makes sense. Or, Mrs. Jones, you're not in this alone. There are thousands and thousands of homeowners that get infested every year with termites, and they go through the same struggle that you're going through right now, right? I get it. Maybe they had a previous termite treatment with another company, and we're 2 to 3 years into it, and they need another treatment, right? So that's pretty frustrating. And so acknowledge that, Ms. Jones, I understand that this has got to be pretty frustrating for you, right? To have to do this again. And I'm sorry about that. Or, hey, I know this is scary for you. You have, brown recluse spiders, right? So before you share what your solution is, make sure that you acknowledge, the problems here, right? That's the first step. And the more you can empathize here, the better. Okay. From there, we're moving into that features and benefits piece, right? Remember, don't cause the so what syndrome, right? Don't feature all over yourself, right? Make sure that you're doing the benefits. There has to be some features, but it has to really, this part of this solution really needs to be benefit focused. Okay. So it looks something like this. Let's say it's a termite job. Yeah, Mrs. Jones, so here's what we do. We're going to drill and treat every 12 inches. We're going to provide, 4 gallons per 10 linear foot, per foot of depth with termiticide, blah, blah, blah. That's a feature. Okay. And like I said, man, if I had $1 for every time a salesperson just stopped right there, I'd be retired, right? And so, so that's the feature, right? The customer really has no idea what you're talking about, right? It sounds good, right? But what's important to them? And that's what you need to tell them. And this is where the benefit comes in. So here's what the benefit sounds like. So Mrs. Jones, what that does for you is the benefit to you, or how this helps you, is that it provides a continuous barrier around your home to protect against future infestations of termites and kills the ones that are here right now. That's perfect, right? And isn't it true though? I mean, that's exactly what we're trying to do, right? And so we're trying to share with them the feature, but really how the benefit, comes into play, right? So that's a feature and benefit thing. Here's another one. Ready? Let's say it's a quarterly exterior service that you're offering. You say, Mrs. Jones, we provide a quarterly exterior service. We treat blah, blah, blah. We, knock down cobwebs. We do this, whatever the case, right? Feature, right? What's the benefit to the customer? Because the customer's like, yeah, okay, great, right? But what's the benefit to me? And so the benefit would be something like this. Maybe Ms. Jones, this eliminates any kind of scheduling process. I know you're a busy person, and we're a busy company. And so this eliminates any kind of scheduling conflict we may have, right? Because when we come to do the service, you don't have to be here. We don't have to set aside a specific, morning or afternoon for you to wait around for us to show up, right? So huge benefit for you. You can just go on living your life and know that we're here to take care of you. Or Mrs. Jones, the benefit is that we put this barrier around the house and it prevents those outside pests from coming in, right? We fill every little hole. This is the benefit. We fill every little hole. We, provide the pesticides on the outside. But Mrs. Jones, the real benefit is that you won't get any pests on the inside. How beautiful is that, right? And so don't fill them up with just features. Make sure that you hammer on the benefits, right? Because that's why people buy, right? What's in it for me, okay? The last piece to this is the acceptance piece. And if you don't do this, then you don't know where you're at, right? In most cases, the reason this never happens, this doesn't happen, is because the salesperson never gave the benefits, right? So if you give them benefits, then this piece right here is just it just makes sense. It kind of goes with it, right? So it's the acceptance piece, right? So Mrs. Jones, by doing this, this quarterly exterior service, completely eliminates any scheduling problems, and you can go on about you living your life. Does that make sense to you? That's acceptance. Does that sound good to you? That's acceptance. Is that the kind of service that you're looking for? Right? You're ending this with a question, and you're trying to find out whether or not they're buying into your solutions. Right? So look at this looks like now. You found these problems, okay? And you've rolled into this place. You know that you have to kind of everything has to be right? You have the customers told you that they have a problem, and they give you some buying language. You both clearly understand what that problem is, and they've taken some ownership of it. You know that you have a service that will fix this problem. So then you roll into acknowledging that problem, right? Mrs. Jones, I get it. You're not the only one, right? You share some features, drill and treat, 4 gallons per 10 litre foot, but the benefit is a continuous barrier to protect you. Does that make sense? You drive that acceptance, and you're kind of locking them into buying into what you're sharing. We go back to that example where, we have 5 different problems you're sharing with. And you need to do this on each and every one separately. You need to address each problem separately. So now you've acknowledged it. You shared the features and benefits for this problem, and then you gain acceptance on this problem, and then you're moving to the next problem. And then you acknowledge that. You share the features and the benefits to the service that you provide on that one, and then you get acceptance with that problem solved, right? And so now if you've had 3 or 4 different problems that you've shared with this customer, you've got acceptance. They said yes, 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 all along the way. Man, does that put you in a great spot. And that's exactly where you want to be. So offering your solution here, solving the problem for the prospect customer, this is really, really critical. I highly recommend that you follow this simple pattern of acknowledging, sharing the features and benefits, and getting acceptance, because it'll dramatically increase your sales. Okay, so part 5 will be on closing, right? And it's the scariest part for so many people. And honestly, it's just ridiculous, because here's a hint. It's really just what makes sense to do next. And that's it, right? So that's coming up. Stay tuned. And I hope you enjoyed today's part 4. And I look forward to sharing part 5 with you soon. Thanks so much. Go out there and do great things. We'll see you.
We hope you have enjoyed this edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. Until next time, have a pestacular day.
Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.